Welcome back to That Rugby podcast hosted by The Rugby Booth. It's your boy Luke, your boy Hughesy back again after an exciting weekend of rugby. Look, that was an interesting weekend, I'd say, for you.
Yeah.
A bit of love-hate with rugby, I'd imagine, on the weekend. Let's start with your Tars, who put up, as you said, the best fight of their season for a very long time, since I think they played the Chiefs.
I think so as well. And even back when they first played the Brumbies as well, or first played the Drua, like some of those early season home games where it came right down to the wire. That's what we saw. Towards the second half of the season, didn't see it nearly as much. And even a couple of tries called back for the Waratahs as well. So, and an 11-point difference. It's 3 tries to 2. Kicking obviously not so good for the Waratahs, but man, what a fight! What a game by Chazza Gambino. Charlie Gamble in there, and I bet you the British and Irish Lions are not looking forward to facing him again in the AUNZ in invitational game, because he was a menace all game.
Yeah, I quickly ran the stats as I was doing a quick Instagram reel on TikTok that they had they'd only lost 2 rucks before that game. The British and Irish Lions, they'd only lost 2 rucks. And that's crazy to think because, you have quality stealers and I'd say quality pilfers, but in that game, I think Charlie Gamble got about 4 or 5 himself. So it was probably a bit of a wake-up call of like, hey, you've got a proper number 7. Again, not saying that the Force nor Reds didn't have proper 7s, but not to probably the skill level of someone like Charlie Gamble. When you go against some of these teams that, it's the players that have been released and the players that haven't even made the squad. That's where the level lies. And Charlie Campbell, he's been on that kind of, is he, will he, won't he, for the past year or so, 2 years, 3 years. And again, put his hand up once again to
it's just a lot of good competition above him. But I guess if you're a Wallabies fan, it gives you comfort that if both McWright and Tazana go down, Charlie Gamble's right there to step in at 7 and be a great quality 7. As well, I did like what we had out of the 2 young halves. The game didn't get too big for them. They kept, throwing different shapes at the Lions as well, kept utilizing their players very, very well. Lawson Crichton at the back at 15, did a great job as well. I think another reason, like the scoreline was as tight as it was, and you have to say that in comparison to the previous 2 Lions games as well, right, is the Crichton's defense at the back, I think, was superb. Similar to Donaldson, who was recalled by the Force to play 15 for them, who normally plays 10, Crichton did the same thing. But what we heard from James O'Connor earlier in the season was that Lawson Crichton is very, very solid in defense, and we saw that against the Lions as well. But I'd like to give a super big praise and shout out to Taniela Tupou, right, who's been criticized, and probably rightly so, all season for some of lack of efforts, brain farts, and not maybe giving 100%. This is a man that gave 100% this game. And you could see, and both sides, the Waratahs and the Lions, both came out and said they had a lot of respect for Tupou, basically putting his hand up for this game, recognizing he had some work to do and getting stuck in there. And that amazing try down the sideline that Darby Lancaster got was a classic Taniela Tupou move. What kind of prop steps and does a dummy and then gets a great pass out to his left-hand side like that? Like that's the thickest first 5 I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's always good to see him when he's playing well. He's the flair that he has and everyone knows him for is there, because he's not your conventional prop by any means. When he manages to find space, he's quick and he's got some skills to him. For the British and Irish Lions, again, a little bit of a wake-up call. I don't think they'll be too annoyed. The game was there. Like, they had chances to put you guys away and they bottled them. Again, it was the fight of the Tars. I think that will probably scare them a little bit. Like, they've, especially in that back 20, they've put both the Force and the Reds away, in that second half, and they just weren't it felt like it was going that way. It did. Like, at halftime, I was like, we're about to see what we've kind of seen in the previous 2 games, but they didn't do it.
That's what I was worried about as well.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of go, they'll be worried about that. Again, what do you put it down to? The Tars actually putting some fight up for once in a while? Do you put it to McKellar again, getting an opportunity to get his fingerprints all over this? It felt like a scrappy game where the forwards orientated. I think they'll take a bit this Brumbies game and then this AU NZXV game have a lot riding on it for the players and the final selections, I think, for the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah, and look, I will say as well, this, first of all, whoever scheduled the Brumbies game for tomorrow night is a fucking idiot. Like, I'm sorry, no one's going to be watching that State of Origin is on. Like, that's really, really poor, really poor timing. Secondly, look, this game, plus what we saw in the Wallabies-Fiji game, which we'll get onto now, has given the blueprint for the Wallabies for what to do, right? So because what the Waratahs did is they didn't allow the Lions to have a lot of those big sweeping open field plays, right? Where they really managed to stick the knife into the Force and the Brumbies, right? Flying around at defense, but also just making it a grubby game, right? And look, it would definitely help that we'd had about 3 meters of rain the previous week, and so the field was slick. We didn't water it, Andy Farrell. We didn't need to. For someone that, as well, for someone whose teams come from England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, you'd think they'd be used to a bit of moisture on the pitch as well. You would have thought it would even benefited them. They probably have wetter pitches than we do. But that's the blueprint: is you got to make it a scrappy, tough, fighting game. And you've got another couple of quality sevens in Tizano and McWright in the Wallabies that are just as capable, if not more so, of creating great turnovers like Charlie Gamble. What it was, and Michael Hooper commented this, and I think it's so critical, right? You could be the best pilferer in the world, but it all comes down to the tackle before the pilfer. It's got to be solid, take out their legs, stop the moving kind of tackles, and that's what the Waratahs did. Got low, can't run without your legs, as the old saying goes. So just chopped them down, got out of the way, let your pilferers get in there and do it. And it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of cardio. It's very physical and demanding, but that's what kept the Waratahs in it. Moving on to the Wallabies in Fiji. Where did Fiji thrive? When the play was broken down, where it was free-flowing and they're able to use their incredible skills. That try right before halftime, perfect example of it. The next try right after that, another perfect example of it, right? That try before halftime should never have happened. It's very, very stupid. The Wallabies be very, very lucky to get away with this one. But at the start of the game, where the Wallabies were playing more clinically and the ball more close to the chest, right? Really driving that, keep them in their own half possession type of game. They were dominating the game, right? The first 20, 30 minutes, arguably up until halftime, really. There was a lot of kicks in behind Fiji, keeping them down in their own area. Even if the ball was going out, it wasn't going out in the full, forcing them to have a line out close to their line. Things like really controlling the game, right? That's what you've got to do against the Lions. You can't let them get these big open field plays because they're too skilled. We've seen it against the Force. We've seen it against the Reds. They'll be able to put points on you that way. They're very good in that breaker play. And it's how we always get crucified against New Zealand as well, who are also very, very good in open play. So you've got to keep it in that very clinical, very short yardage game, attritional game. Really, it's really going to be an attritional game against the Lions. Look, I'm gonna let's talk about now Wallabies and Fiji in the context of this game, and not look at other things. So obviously, some key pieces missing for the Wallabies. Bobby Valentini was injured, so he didn't play. Fezler was resting as well after the Reds game. I am missing some others. Look, Jake Gordon, I think it was an injury designation on him as well. Although I don't know if that we'll really see much. I mean, we'll probably see Gordon go to the starting line and Tate to the bench, and Nick White dropped off. But the biggest thing for the Wallabies out of this game is Noah Lolasio's injury, right? Unlikely to be back until at least the second test. So you would think that probably means his series is done, unless Donaldson and Liner go out and have absolutely atrocious first test. You probably expect to see Donaldson and Liner take it from here on out, which I did like what Donaldson brought when he was on the field, a bit more precision kicking, a bit more of that, as I said, sort of attritional type play. Nick White had a very rough start, but then picked it back up, which was good to see. But that slow start, I watched for the first 5 to 10 minutes, he couldn't make a tackle. He was simply bouncing off the Fijians. It was just too big. They were literally shrugging him string him off. He was going far too high. Then he started going for the lower legs and actually managing to take him down, which was good to see because you always, as much as I do not want to see Nick White in the Test squad, you don't like your players not playing well. Jorgensen and Potter, I thought had good games, and Harry Wilson's try at the end. Oh man, I was standing up and cheering for that. That is what a captain does. Take very ballsy call to try that spin move over the try line to plan it down. So yeah, very well done there. But the Wallabies let the game get away from them for a period of about 35 minutes, and absolutely cannot do that. Conversely, I want to say as well, for everyone out there like, oh, the Wallabies barely scraped by Fiji. Fiji's a quality outfit. We lost to Fiji the last time we played. Fiji, this isn't the Fijian Dura just in different colors. These are players that are playing regularly in the best competition in the world, in the top 14, or the most professional competition in the world, let's call it, right? That are getting exposure to one of the great rugby nations in France, as well as South Africa, England, Scotland, Wales, all that Northern Hemisphere style of rugby. This is not your daddy's Fiji anymore, that the Wallabies can put 60 plus points on. This is a quality outfit that I'm sure, if the Rugby Championship's ever going to expand, is going to be one of the countries that Sanzar is calling up and saying, hey, want to get in on this. But yeah, look, a lot for the Wallabies to work on, but I think it's clear cut. I think it's pretty obvious what needs to be worked on. I don't think they're going to be scratching their head about what they need to improve on. And the Waratahs, as well as their own experience now, have given them a blueprint for the Lions.
Yeah, and I think, as we always say on this podcast, good teams find ways to win. That's what they do. We said it as you were going into it. Look, we thought it was going to be close, maybe within that 14.
That's what I said as well. You asked me what I wanted to see out of this game, and I said the only thing I want to see out of this game is a win. I said they need to learn how to win. Doesn't matter if it's scrappy. Doesn't matter if it's ugly. I said you can go back and find the clip. All I said is they just have to get a win.
And they did. And as you said, I think however they do it, whatever way, spinning, jumping, hurdling, going under, no one's going to care when it comes to the British and Irish Lions. So you shouldn't care when it comes to Fiji at the moment. Again, as you said, this is their first hit out of the year. First time the squad's been together, first time they've played this year as a team. If you don't expect some rust, you're going to be silly. Now, again, in that Fiji, as you said, it may not be the Jura. You may have players coming from the top 14, but there's a substantial squad of Jura players in that team. So, like, there is a little bit of cohesion. You chuck in the flair, you chuck in the talent of those top 14 URC Premiership players, you're going to get something pretty fucking good. And so Fiji, again, as you said, they're a good Fiji, they're a good team, and they'll be disappointed they lost the game, inadvertently. But, yeah, I think, as you said, for Australia, big thing was get a win. Again, ideally not to have any injuries, but no, I'll see you. And again, this is the second time a neck injury. You kind of go, as much as what we've seen from Noah Lolosio, I don't think he is this type of player, but as much as you kind of sit here, he's got a contract in Japan.
Yeah.
Quite lucrative. Like, I know we've seen him put his body on the line all this time for the Wallabies. He's never been one to shy away from that, so I don't think he will, especially with the Lions in town. And again, if it's 1-1 and they need, say even if they get smashed in that first game and they need him, I'm sure he will put his hand up. But you got to start thinking about his future. He's got a lucrative deal. He wants to keep playing. That things going on. You just hope for the best for him as well.
I'd like to see James O'Connor come into camp, to be honest, as well, to even just provide some mentorship for these guys. Will Skelton was the other big injury that was hanging over the Wallabies as well. But what I've seen is that there's confidence he will be available. He and Valentini and Jay Gordon will be available for that first test.
Well, a lot more to happen before now in that first test, but we'll keep discussing that. But there's a lot of international rugby that happened over the weekend.
There was.
I'm going to start off with my All Blacks, which, again, good teams find ways to win. That's what we say, and it happened, and we found a way to win. It wasn't pretty. Look, let's have a quick discussion about the TMO, because the TMO's been a point of call for, against in your game as well, and you guys were on the benefit of it in your situation.
Well, there was also times where we were not the benefit of it as well, and same with in the Waratahs game as well. So I think it was look, before you launch into all your stuff, way too much TMO. All right, for these tests, I thought we'd seen an improvement of it over the Super Rugby season. It's like 2 steps back in the wrong direction, right? For one of the Wallabies tries where the ref has said a pass has gone back, I didn't think you should then go back and be able to review it. Like if that's the on the field call, that's the on the field call. Especially where he's made an active call, where he's not just let it go, where he said it's backwards, let it go. And the Fijian one, it's like, that's crazy. You're going back to the opponent's possession to take a try away. Like, I get it, and we were the beneficiary of it, and we won the game because of it. But it's like, that's, to any rugby fan, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and so and you made a good point. It's different to Super Rugby. They've got 2 guys in the booth. They've got 1 checking for foul play and 1 TMO just purely for that, and they're quite clearly more enticing to get involved, I think, in World Rugby's view of the game. Now, I have zero problem with us getting to the correct decision. I've got zero problem with it. Similar thing happened to our game. A referee called a knock-on back, and then when we checked back, it was a knock-on. Like, we want the right decisions. Again, as you've mentioned as well, the issue is the amount of time and the time that they're getting involved. And as I've said, I've got no problem with us finding a way to get to the right decision. I always think, and I will always think this, it should be left in the player's hands.
Yes, so challenge system.
Challenge system. I always think, like,
exactly what I was saying.
Why have a TMO? Why have this? And again, hey, if you as a captain go, hey, we challenged that play that there was a knock on, and then they go back, or we challenged that there was a forward pass before that try. Awesome. Like, totally fine. You can do that, again, within the rules, as league does it. I just think it takes, when you're looking at stuff like that, it takes the referees and the TMOs out of the game, and it puts it back on the players. Where we want the players deciding the game. And then
makes the captain role more important.
Exactly. And where we see, all of a sudden, instead of us being like, oh, the TMO's getting too involved, it's like, why didn't the captain challenge? Where were our thought process there and stuff like that? So I will always continue to believe that a captain challenge is the best route, because it puts it back in the players' hands and it takes away from the TMO. Like, unless it's clear and obvious, like ground into the ball, like, I've got no problem with us chucking that up to the TMO. But let's trust our referees to make decisions. Again, put the trust back on them and then play it off there. I like the right decisions, but I also like the game moving faster and not being held up by.
Well, I mean, I think you can literally just like for like copy the NRL. I mean, their system is two challenges. If you get a challenge right, you get it back, right? So you've essentially got one mistake, and then you have to get it right from there on. Then every try is reviewed, but I believe it's only reviewed for like the play or two before. Now, league, it's a bit more clear cut because you have your tackles and things like that. But I'm sure we could come up with a good rule of 2 or 3 phases before the try is scored. That's as far back as you can review, and thereafter it's it's reviewed by the TMO. So 3 phases before, unless there's a specific challenge, maybe from a captain or something. They say like, 5 phases back there was a knock on by the other team, so on and so forth, or high contact or something like that. That's great. I did like in the Waratahs game before the Derby Lancaster try, the TMO took it up and said, this is bad contact in the ruck, and the referee shut it down. It's like, no, it's fine. It's a try. It happens every ruck, which is good. That's what the referee should be doing. And I hope it put the TMO's nose out of joint, and don't for silly little stuff like that. So yeah, I think it needs to be a system like that, and it just greatly improve the game, because that Fijian try that was taken back, that's a travesty. I say this as a diehard Wallabies fan who was very, very happy we won the game, and that's a travesty. As you said before on this podcast, though, if a single play is enough to mean the difference between you winning and losing, you did do enough to win the game. That applies as well. But yeah, I would feel very hard done by if I was a Fijian fan.
Yeah, and saying that, like, we had 3 tries scrubbed off. There's only one I disagree with, which was the shepherding one, because if we get into shepherding, we may as well be playing league. But yeah, I totally understand getting the right call, and I know the counter argument to this is always going to be like, 10 phases before this, there was a knock-on and the ref missed it, and that cost us the game. And again, we know that'll happen. That'll happen. It'll come with it. It's the territory. But I still think if you put that into the captain's hands, if you start saying, hey, look, this is what we want to challenge and so on and so forth, all of a sudden it takes it away from the referees, the TMOs getting involved. We want a game where the players decide the outcomes. And to me, this is the easiest way to do it. Enough about the TMOs. Elsewhere.
Very last thing on this, though, I do want to bring this up. The Wakataki Times, I think it's New Zealand's equivalent of Batuta Advocate. They've got 2 articles here which made me laugh. The first one is All Blacks shocked by loss after TMO rules out all of their tries overnight. And then the other one is TMO now taking another look at a forward pass from the World Cup quarterfinal in 2007. I just thought, it's perfect. Yeah, right on it. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, we could have a TMO look at the 2007 pass in the quarterfinals. Look, All Blacks is France. It was a messy game. I think, again, as I said, first time that our teams come together as an All Blacks squad as well. But rusty, 31 points is really nice. Like, I like the point scoring and the fact that we had 4 free tries rubbed off. So potentially a 50-point game we could have put on them. Letting 27 points against what we've been saying this whole team is a French B-side. And I recently just rated all the players on Instagram and gave them a score out of 10, and everyone's hating on my ratings. But as New Zealanders, this is the issue I have. I love us. I love the All Blacks. We can't have it both ways and sit there and shit talk about a French B team, how we're going to wallop them, and when we don't wallop them, then grade our players as they deserve to be graded, and then cry about how harshly we've graded the players. This is New Zealand rugby in a nutshell, where it's like, we'll sit there and go, like, I was expecting, like, from what I saw, the talent on the field, I think it was a 50-20 type game. It should have been to the All Blacks. That's what I saw. Now, the French came out and played hard. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to take anything away from this French side. They put on that jersey. They expect you have to play well, and you've got enough depth in French rugby at the moment with their top 14 Pro D2, all of that stuff to show that they're a good enough team. But as a world-class team that we are, we should have put them away by more. And there's no doubt in my mind we should have been better at a few things around the tackle, around the ruck. We were a little bit clunky with our playmakers, especially losing Severeese early and Damien McKenzie having to come into fullback. Probably not how they'd trained as much as they probably had. They obviously would have had McKenzie in fullback at points, but it was just I'll say a clunky game. But again, good teams find ways to win. Yeah.
So did Bowden Barrett started? Did he just stay at 10 the whole game?
Stayed at 10 the whole game. McKenzie at 15. Will Jordan went to the wing. And Will Jordan, again, our best player, in my opinion, was very good on the wing, but I can't wait to see him in fullback. Like, I think he's just going to be very good at fullback. I don't think we kicked and chased that well. Like, again, I remember still so vividly the final of the Super Rugby and how good Crusaders kicks were and competing in the high balls, and we didn't do that well, I thought, for an All Black side. So all of those things, they'll come. Razor's getting his hands all over these players. It'll be interesting. A few debutants that were very good. Fabian Holland, I thought, was good. Christian Leawille, very good as well. And Holland, we need some big locks. News that Scott Barrett's just tore a calf muscle, so he's going to be out for the rest of the series. So, again, this will be interesting how those locks and those pairings start to look. In another clunky game, I will say, South Africa versus Italy. And Italy B-side, they were saying it's an Italy B-side, and again, there are a few players out from Italy. I totally saw that, but again, Italy showing some depth, pushing South Africa all the way to the end. They continue to just keep staying in this fight. Again, South Africa are such a classy side. God, I watched this game and I was so fucking annoyed about how good they are right now. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm annoyed because of how good they are, not because they're dicks about it. Like, they are just such a good side. Like, the way they play is phenomenal. And they will sit there and say they bombed a couple of opportunities. They were probably a bit clunky as well compared to their Barbarians game. But, man, the talent they have coming through as well. Like, I'm talking about depth from Italy, depth from France. I'm like, there are some good players coming out of South Africa again as well. So, yeah, Again, one really high-intensity game as well. For what I sat there, I was like, first few minutes, I was like, oh, Italy are in some trouble here. But they, again, a really good experience for them.
Yeah.
Definitely did. Argentina, shocked the world, beat British and Irish Lions. And then they went into a whimper against England. Again, it was 3-0
shocked the world a different way.
Yeah, 3-0 at half-time. This is England. We can say we got a lot of B teams flying about because French don't want to send their team. Italy, I don't know what they're doing. Obviously, the British and Irish Lions, so you've got none of those internationals. So the English B-ish team come out and absolutely dominate in the second half. George Ford was phenomenal in this game.
Yeah.
And everyone's sitting there and going, how has he not got a British and Irish Lions cap? I understand that, but there's got some pretty good overfly halves at the moment, the British and Irish Lions. But they were very good. And then Argentina just shocked me that they were so poor, especially in that second half. They let in 32 points. And again, I think that's what that Argentina team's been built off when they win those games, as those tight games. But we've always said it with Argentina, it's a consistency. 1 week they'll beat the All Blacks and then get spanked by them. 1 week they'll beat the British and Irish Lions and then get spanked by B England teams. An interesting one there. And then look, you're Welsh. And I say you're Welsh
no,
just because I can
not
say
this
week. They add another loss to the ever-growing list. And they had it against Japan. They were all up for it. Against Eddie Jones's Japan, who don't seem to win a lot, they still beat Wales. So, look, it was a tough day at the office for the Welsh.
It was. Luckily, they've got a chance to redeem themselves this weekend on the 12th. But, the Welsh have got to be feeling pretty upset. And they can't even blame the fact that they've only got the British and Irish Lions tour on because they've only got 2 players away. Yeah, it's rough times to be a Welsh rugby fan.
Yeah, and I think they've dropped to a record break-in or record low for them in 14th in the world. To be 14th best team in the world as a Welsh rugby union, they've got so much shit going on in the background as well. Like, they don't know if they're staying in the URC or trying to get in the Premiership. They've got 4 professional teams at the moment. There's talks it'll go to 3, then it's talks it'll go to 2. It's a fucking mess over in Welsh rugby at the moment. And look, a good Wales side is what everyone wants. Like, remember when the Warren Gatland teams were absolutely dominating and they were fun to watch, making semi-finals of Rugby World Cups, winning 6 Nations. It's a little bit sad state of affair at the moment. Look, I had a question, and I couldn't answer this because as I was watching the South African game and seeing that Cheslin, Kolbe and Kurtley Ardense have become the second most capped wing combo behind Bryan Habana and JP Peterson, I had the question because I remember as a young boy, Bryan Habana and JP were pretty fucking good. Like, they were a very good combo of wingers. And I don't think we're in any position to answer this, as we don't know South Africans. So I just need all those South Africans out there to answer it for me. What combo is better? Is it the Bryan Habana and JP Peterson, or is it Cheslin, Kolbe and Kurtley Ardense? Look, there's 2 things that stand out to me. Bryan Habana was the best winger of his time. I don't think there's any doubt going around to that. He was the quickest. He was one of the strongest. He was just incredible. I sit here and I go, Cheslin Kolbe is one of the best wingers of his time right now. And I think, when I look at it, I think it's harder to play winger now than it was back when Bryan Habana was, with the way kicking's growing, catching high balls. And I'm not just saying this, but Cheslin's 5'5", and again, he's probably taller, but he's tiny. And the fact that he's able to command the high ball space, when he's got ball in the hand, we know how special he is. So I'm like starting to go, as much as I rate Bryan Habana, I'm like, Cheslin Kolbe is up there for one of the greatest players to ever do it. If he continues to keep going the way he's going, like, what he does in his skill set is incredible as a rugby player. And then I go JP Peterson. Again, I remember him being fantastic, that bald head running down the wing for the Sharks, terrorised teams. But Kurtley Ardense is getting a little Cheslin Kolbe about him. His skill set's amazing. He's able to take the high ball in space. He's dominating. So, I don't know. I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts on that, especially the South African fans, what they think, who the best wing combo is. Look, we've got an exciting weekend to look forward to of rugby. You've obviously said the Wednesday game's a bit disappointing.
I do want to talk about the AUNZ Invitational 15 for a minute, because it's this game this Saturday. So very exciting. Some of the names on here I'm very excited by, right? Lau Fakatava, Shannon Frizzell, David Havili, right? Lukan Salakailotu, Pete Samu, Sarah Uru, Darby Lancaster, who just scored a great try. Harry McLaughlin-Phillips, really looking forward to him getting a run against the Lions as well. I think he's got a lot to go. But the big name for me is Marika Korobetti. Like this, I'm very happy Marika gets a run out against the Lions. Like I would have been disappointed for him if he didn't get a run there as well. But Hoskins Tutu, AJ Lamb, like Lucky Anderson, Angus Blythe, Tane is in there as well. Matt Greeley, who had a fantastic game for the Force as well. Pistol Pete Summy, like Jeffrey Tuamanga Allen. Like there's a lot of talent in this AUNZ international team. I think this is going to be a great game. And I don't know if you've seen the jerseys. The jerseys look sick as well. Like the jerseys look really good. I'd like to see this AUNZ team be more often, or even like our own version. I've said this for a while. Like I'd love to see a Southern Hemisphere version of the British and Irish Lions or the Rugby Championship. Best of the Rugby Championship type of tour. Like you have the British and Irish Lions every 4 years, and then you have the and so like say this tour this year, and then you might have like the year after you might have the Southern Hemisphere tour, because obviously 2 years from now is going to be a World Cup, so you don't want any like big tours then. But like maybe the year before, and then that's a good warm up for the World Cup as well. Or maybe you have it the year prior, maybe you have it 2024, the year after a World Cup, something like that. But yeah, I'd like to see that a bit more often. I think that'd be really cool. But even an AUNZ team, I think would be really cool. Like AUNZ Tour of South Africa or something like that. Or I don't know. I love seeing these mix-ups. It's the same way that there's the excitement about the British and Irish Lions. It's like exciting to see some of these players link up.
Exactly. Yeah. No, in no world this team will ever link up again, if you know what I mean. There's no squad, no Super Rugby franchise that could pay for all these players or have them all there. There's no international team they could play for, so this is the only opportunity, and it's the same with British and Irish Lions, and it's pretty special to be able to see that. Saying that, there's so much international rugby going on at the moment. The British and Irish Lions obviously captures the headlines, but you've got the Cheetahs are playing Georgia in a game on Friday, Fiji hosting Scotland, Japan hosting Wales, New Zealand hosting France, South Africa hosting Italy, AUNZXV versus in Adelaide as well, I believe, which is an interesting place, not a rugby stronghold of Australia. Portugal hosting Ireland, Uruguay hosting Romania, Argentina hosting England, Canada hosting Belgium, USA hosting Spain, and that is it for this weekend of rugby. So a shitload of rugby to continue watching, a shitload of rugby to get your head around. Again, we'll be here every single week to discuss it, to make sure you're up to speed. So stay with us, make sure you're liking these, subscribing, staying tuned to everything. For now, I've been Luke, that has been Husey. We have been That Rugby Podcast. We'll see you later. Goodbye.
Peace.